to see all of you here. There's a very strong push in Taiwan, in Denmark, from around the world towards a circular society. But to develop such society is not an easy task. I strongly believe that some of the answers to the challenges lie in design. Design can play, already does play, a key role in the transition towards a truly circular economy. Design enables us to imagine a circular society. And this is a truly fundamental step before we can actually realize it. We need those compelling solutions, that quality design that makes circularity a clear-cut choice. From service experience to product ideas to urban development. At today's forum, you'll be able to explore Danish ideas about circular solutions, showcasing how to accelerate the transition towards circularity by reducing, recycling, and upcycling in innovative ways. A circular transition requires thinking out of the box, and it requires partnerships across borders. As you may know, Denmark has a long tradition and history within design, and Taiwan has a long history within production. I see great potential for Taiwan and Denmark to partner up and leverage each other's strong points and resources. For circularity to become irresistible, we need to build communities, innovative partnerships, and alliances. And I hope we can start with that work here today. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Dirk Munstedt. Next, let's welcome the president of TDRI, Mr. Ji Chang, to give us opening remarks.
Hi, everyone. I am very delighted to co-host this forum with Trade Council of Denmark. This forum is aimed to bridging Taiwanese industries and Danish design cluster in order to help Taiwanese manufacturers and design companies to successfully open up the European market through design. It's also aimed to provide Taiwanese industry with knowledge on circular design and sustainable vice knowledge exchange between Taiwan and Danish designers. As Denmark has achieved many success in building a more sustainable future, there are many ways that we can take a reference. We also have 3 great speakers from Taiwan side to share our experience and practice. I hope everyone will get inspired through their sharing. Taiwan Design Research Institute as an integrated platform that drives development of Taiwan's design industry. We will continue to seek new ways to deep open our circular relationship with Denmark explore together. Let us use this platform as an inspiration to intensify our efforts in circular sustainable development. Thank you. I wish all you have productive forum. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ji Chang. I believe we will have more opportunity for cooperation in the future. At the moment, to remember this great time, we will have a group photo now. So let me invite Dirk Munstedt again, and also Ji Chang, and all our speakers, and also our panelists. Okay, we come together, and also Phoebe. Okay. Let's see in front of the camera. And also our Danish speakers behind. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so before the sessions start, I would like to introduce our panelist, Professor Gideon Levy, the founder and CEO of Scandinavian Design Consultant. He is a Danish, but has been deeply involved in Taiwan for a long time. We know each other over 20 years, I think. Okay. I believe that he will bring up the insightful views into the different design culture between Taiwan and Denmark. I would like to hand this over to Professor Lovey, who is going to lead the next part. So let's just welcome Professor Lovey.
谢谢，谢谢. Okay, so welcome everybody. Normally I speak, but I speak much too long. So I'm going to read today to keep the time. The most important thing for me today is to make sure that nobody runs over time, including myself. So we live in times of great challenge, as you both spoke, but we also live in a time of great hope. It can be difficult to relate the daunting scale of the challenges to the limited context of our own work. But the scale of the effort to solve them goes across all fields and all countries today and gives real hope. The number of people working on projects that aim to mitigate climate change and relieve social and economic inequality today is truly awe-inspiring. We are on a global mission to repair our relationship to each other, with nature and the earth, and to rebuild the human ecosystem better, stronger, and healthier than ever before. And we have never had so much understanding of what to do and how to do it as we have now. The zero net agreements reached at COP26 are an umbrella for many philosophies, ideas, methods, and tools. Whether you personally think it has been successful or not is not so important. What matters is that now the task of facing a better future through systemic change has reached the mainstream. Eco-design is no longer a fringe competence. It is now recognized as the core competence in what is becoming a huge global movement for reframing the present and rethinking the future. It seems that nobody wants to be left behind. We are all doing our bit in each our part of the world, with each our culture and with each our ways. And together, that is a lot. It has always been the human mission to leave the world to the future generations in a better state than we inherited it. What is changing is our idea of what better means. Today, we are here to share ideas and experiences from two sides. Both of our countries are small, have big neighbors, and few natural resources to develop. We have therefore developed extraordinary human ingenuity. People are the source of our wealth, and thinking differently, the key to our futures. Today, we have a very inspiring program, and let me introduce the themes and the speakers. 可以吗？好，谢谢，谢谢。Okay, there will be 3 sections, and for each section we have 2 speakers, one in Denmark and one in Taiwan. Afterwards, we will have a panel discussion and Q&A. The first section discusses the vision of circular design and how we can design a circular economy that redefines how we produce and how we consume. The second section discusses how to use the SDG framework to build circular strategies and projects. The third section discusses how to apply circular thinking into commercial projects. For our first section, we have 2 circular specialists who, each in their own way, work with systems design to reframe, rethink, and redesign the way industries create economic value. Dieter Lyschor-Winn and Mr. Jiaxiang Wang. Dieter has dedicated her whole work life to championing and implementing circular thinking. She works with government, industry, business, investors, and a broad range of professionals to transform Denmark into a sustainable economy. She is one of the few global experts who could truly call themselves both a game changer and a circular activist, changing the game through her companies and promoting sustainable circularity through her books and public engagement. She was co-founder of the Danish Network for Circular Economy, an organization similar to Taiwan's Circular Economy Taiwan. After Dieter will be founder of Renato Lab, Mr. Wang. He too has dedicated his whole work life to sustainability. For the past 20 years, he has been helping Taiwan transition to become a sustainable, recycling society and has been a motor in changing thinking and practice in both government and enterprises. As an expert on waste and resource recovery, he founded Renato Lab to develop recovered materials, green furniture, and household products. It is now 9:15 in the morning in Denmark. I hope that our speakers have got their coffee. So let's welcome our first speaker, Ditte Lysgaard Vind. Let's say good morning and welcome to Ditte in Danish. Godmorgen, Ditte. Velkommen til Taiwan. So, where is Ditte?
Can you hear and see me?
We can hear you, and now we can see you. Welcome. And now I'm going to hand over the word to you. Please, let's go.
Thank you so much. And I think you have my slides as well.
Sorry, could you please turn down other sounds? So could you please ask the question again?
It was just, I think you have my slides on your end as well.
Right. PPT. Do you have her PPT? Okay. Could you please put them on the screen? Okay, now we have them. Thank you. Yes, technical hitch surmounted.
Thank you so much, and thank you very much for having me and sharing the perspectives of designing for the circular economy the Danish way. It's what we do in everyday life. I have the pleasure of being in the nexus between practice and theory. So partly running the circular way and working with Linear Group, and partly writing my new book for the global publishing house Routledge. It is exactly called Design for the Circular Economy. So with that, if you can change the next slide. Is it possible to get the next slide? Sorry? Or is it, yeah, so designing the world of tomorrow with the waste of today while designing a world without waste is really the modus operandi of everything we do. So what you see here is, in fact, a number of the materials that we recycled. So we are working with taking waste and turning it into new resources on a very practical and day-to-day level, particularly taking waste streams from within the built environment, but also from other industries and turning them into resources in the built environment. Seeing that in the short to medium term has a great effect, both in terms of waste reduction, but also in terms of limiting the embedded energy used in the built environment, so reducing their CO2 input. But as the second part of the phrase, also mindful that we do need to design a world without waste. We are super mindful that these solutions are short to medium term, so we always do it in partnerships with skilled toolsmen that can do the production and can turn their production towards a circular production themselves. Next slide, please. And this is a little bit, but essentially a journey. So if you imagine a world without resource scarcity, and then next slide. And again, where our behavior doesn't have a negative impact on climate. And next slide. And where waste does not exist. And if you turn to the next slide, of course, that's very far from where we are today. But we do believe that it is in fact possible to design that world where three problems become one solution. And if there's one thing to take away today from my talk, is that circular economy is a tool, not a goal in itself, but a tool to make several problems into one solution. And so one example, so it's not just all talk, this is Upcycle Studios It is a commercial real estate development that we put up in Øresund, a part of Copenhagen. And so being strategists, architects, but also being the supplier of materials out there. And what you see on this picture is our upcycled windows, our upcycled wood, and you see a little bit of our concrete aggregate that is also upcycled. And then next slide. And just a story on the concrete, we did that on site. There is a huge, I mean, of course, concrete is one of our biggest polluters because we use cement as a binder. So cement is 9% of the global emission. One material in itself is 9%. So we really need to find better solutions for cement. At Upcycle Studios, we recycled it, which enabled us to have a somewhat lower emission, but not as much as we want. So we're working both in terms of continuing the recycling, replacing the cement, but also have a project with the Danish Technical University where we are reusing structural elements. Because if we reuse, we don't have to put new cement in, and there's truly a very grand opportunity for that. And what we see is that it's really more than anything about the mindset, because there are so many structural elements that has really high quality, where it's no problem to reuse it. It's actually more economically viable. But we're just simply not used to seeing something that's been used before as a resource. And it didn't used to be that way, but unfortunately it's become that now. So we really, while we work on the technical side, we also just need to be mindful of how much is actually in our minds and how much is about changing our work culture and way of seeing things, and truly going back to seeing waste as a resource. And then next slide. Next slide. This is just from the outside. This is our on-site plant. So an added benefit that we actually weren't aware of originally when we did, not in this project, but the previous project where we upcycled concrete, is because concrete is relatively cheap. So actually the biggest impact from an environmental perspective our upcycled concrete had was that we built it on site. So there was only use the amount of cement that we needed in the building, because normally when you produce it on a plant, you tend to buy too much concrete, because for the developer or for the entrepreneur, more than anything, you just want to make sure you have enough. So you have a huge amount of waste generally in all buildings, because you just want to make sure. So you buy 10, 15, 20% too much. So simply avoiding that counted in waste is hugely important. And I guess I see that in all industries, whether we talk about consumer goods, fashion, etc. We can talk a lot about consumers, since we need to talk about consumers, but there are so much built-in waste even before we reach users that we all have the opportunity to change today. So just and a sort of a challenge or an opportunity for all of us to go back and think about where in our value chains can we actually change things as they are today, simply by putting up the notion and the effort to get absolutely no way. Sorry, I don't know if it's on your end as well, but there's a very uncomfortable, maybe now it's gone, but before there was a very just checking in, can you hear me, and are you also hearing a rather loud sound continuously? Maybe not. Let's try the next slide. This is the building from the inside, and you see the concrete again, you see the windows, and you see the wood. And what we really wanted to do, and what we really love about Upcycle Studios, is that it was done without compromise. So what we really aim to do is to take the biggest challenge, the most challenging industries, and then highlight how circular economy can be a tool for making for doing sustainability, but doing it without compromise on price, without quality, and without a compromise on aesthetics. So for us, we really love the aesthetics of Upcycle Studios, and it's been highly rewarded. And also from the developer side, one thing was that by changing the economics and what we spent money on and what we didn't spend money on, we were actually able to deliver at the same price that a square meter costs at that part of town, which is not the most expensive part of town by far. So delivering on without compromise on price, and then having the added benefit of these are rentals, and them being rented out much quicker than any other developments in that part of town. So really having that added value of sustainability when we start looking at it as not something that means that we can do things a little bit more easy, but instead looking at sustainability as an opportunity to to use it as a positive creative constraint to really do things even better. And then next slide. And this is just the amount of waste. Next slide. And the CO2 savings on the concrete specifically, and then if you take the next slide. These are the windows, also again, recycle. I'll just go past through it quickly, and then next slide. I'll share it all together, and this also from the built side. One funny story about the windows is that's what happens when you do innovation, is that we had to do it. We had to put the windows together on site the first time. Now we have a proper partnership with the window makers so that we can take our waste windows, have them stored in their factory, and then they repurpose the windows directly there. But just a reminder that the first time you do innovation, there needs to be a lot of wiggle room for the things to happen. And then once you've done it the first time, you can do so much more. And then next slide. And next slide. And these are the quite grand savings on the windows, simply by just putting design at core, looking at how much is viable. The windows are wasted because they're not living up to the energy requirements. And of course, that's important. The use energy is important, but we need to be holistic when we talk sustainability. So we can't think about use energy without thinking about the embedded energy, that being the energy that we use when producing our materials. So instead we found actually a quite simple way to put, by design, to put the windows together in two, so that now they live up to the energy requirements, and we also do it without compromising on daylight, etc. And I think that's one thing to say about everything that we do. It's at best, it's what people call low advanced tech, so it really is doable for everyone to do. And then next slide. Just a quick input on how much was actually recycled in the development. And this again being, it's 22 row houses, they're commercial real estate, they're in use, they've been in use for 2 years now, and everybody's happy and the users are using them, and there's no complaints. But yeah, 45% on the concrete, somewhere between 50 and 85 on the windows, that depending on the individual build in terms of what regulations allowed us to do. And then 100% of the wood is recycled. Yeah, next slide. And this just also in terms of how much does that actually mean? We could actually reduce CO2 emissions quite greatly. And this is quite similar. Our reduction is very similar to what the Danish government is now saying that all buildings should do. And of course, what we're thinking is, if we could do that on a pilot project, we need to set our ambitions even higher, because we can already see with this project that we can do more, and we need to continue to do more. Next slide. And this is just in terms of cost, looking at, yes, we can do sustainability competitive on price when using circular economy as a tool, because we change things around and start using our money differently. So we spend much less, if any, on buying materials, but we spend more on repurposing, so more on the actual work itself. And that's also one of the reasons why when the European Union did their first strategy on circular economy, they simply called it growth within, because with circular economy, there's a great opportunity to foster local and national work environments and really putting skills in use. Yeah, next slide. Entering a new world. I think I would leave it at this, just also in respect of time. I have much more to share, and I'm sure the team can share the slides afterwards, but just really in entering a new world might be a nice output of really seeing how we see it, and what the growth that we've been able to have is truly by seeing waste as a resource, seeing that we need to do much more and we can do much more. There's a really, really grand opportunity to make business and climate prerequisites rather than opposites. And that's really where we all need to go. And more than anything, it's about changing our view, changing our perspective, and allowing ourselves to see the opportunities that is within reduce, reuse, recycle, and replace of materials. So with that, I will leave it for today, but thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to the conversation and all of the wonderful speakers.
Thank you so much, Gitte. Wonderful speech. Very inspiring, because it's also so practical. You have all the theory, you have all the practice put together in a single project. Fabulous. Thank you very much. So our next session is about change making. We will hear from two pioneers who work with environmental sustainable design. Okay, within the framework of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, also known as the SDGs. Thank you. Our first speaker, Helene Jensen, is a textile designer who loves colorful and thought-provoking design, but also works to facilitate circular strategies. Okay, apart from running her own brand, Sen, she is a teacher at the Danish Design School. There she has created a new industry-academia partnership concept called Spin In. She will share how companies come to the school. Can you do anything about that? Thank you. She will share. Okay, it's me. I'm so sorry, everybody. She will share how companies come to the school with real-life sustainability challenges, and how they are assigned an interdisciplinary team of design students to help develop sustainable strategies based on the SDGs. After Helene, we will welcome Director of Lighton's Corporate Social Responsibility Office, Mr. Peter Chen. Lighton is a Taiwanese electronics giant that is also famous for its strong cultural commitment. Among other things, they run an annual student competition, and that also promotes industry-academia collaboration. We met at this award years ago. Hi, Peter. Today, Peter will share about Lighton's Sea Hope project. This initiative that recycles styrofoam that they collect from the ocean into plastic shells for electronic products is also founded on the SDGs. Please help me to welcome Helene to join us online from Denmark. Godmorgen og velkommen, Helene. Can we please have a picture of Helene as well on the screen?
And I'll just turn on the sound as well.
Oh my goodness.
Hello. Hi, good morning or good afternoon.
Okay, sorry. I'm sorry, I have caused a technical hitch here.
Okay.
We are already introduced from Renato. I'm sorry, you are the next speaker. Renato, yes. I'm so sorry. It was so exciting to listen. Please, could you please wait a moment, Helene? 15 minutes.
Yes, that's all right.
Are you ready? Gosh, I'm so sorry.
现场听众后面是他们还要再拿进。OK， 现场听。
今天我要分享的主题是区块设计，也就是如何进到这个零碳的地步。那首先我会稍微说明一下我们所用的方法，然后以及设计上所做的一些改变。使用非常多的资源，然后这个在这一段时间有消耗资源，大概需要
use a lot of resources. 我帮你开麦。
To delve into the industries to really identify the problem. We now choose TDRI. It's a different the clothes, the garment will eventually and they may not be in the process where they go themselves. So they really come soon. These two industries are actually facing different industries. The 60. First, we can ask industries $10. So why don't I just establish a recycling bottles and I use these bottles so that way for me to recycle this bottle it reached design to use to have possession. We only need
那我们使用的。
So we need to use materials.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry that I've jumped you. Okay. Am I on? Okay. Now it will be Helene's turn. I've done all the introductions. I spent time on that. Please, let's welcome Helene from Denmark, who will make her presentation about her projects. Velkommen til, Helene.
Tak skal du have, Gideon. Thank you so much. Is it possible that I could get my slides on? Thank you. Thank you. I can see the slides are on now. And I would like to thank you for the invitation to this design event that you are having. I've been invited to talk about the spin-in for sustainability. If you please turn the slide. Gideon makes such a beautiful presentation of me, so I'll just jump to the next slide just telling you that I've been working with the spin-in since it started in 2019. The purpose of the spin-in is to combine companies with talented students from universities. The companies defining the sustainability challenge that they're working with or they're having at the moment. The companies are very different. They are in different levels on their sustainability transformation. So it's possible to have just from the beginning, or you can have it if you have been using several steps, you can put in wherever you want it. The company defined what challenge they would like us to work with. And mainly the challenges are based in the 17th UN goals. And we're working mainly with number 12, that is the responsible consumption and production. Next slide, please. The students that we're working with is coming from universities in Denmark. They're coming from design management, finance, design, material, knowledge, product development, and using design thinking as well. The students are matched in a cross-disciplinary team so that we can get a broader view on the challenge that the company is putting up for them. The spin-in is just for 4 days, so you can say it's just a short work they're doing, and it's also the outcome of it is often a concept they are working with, or it can be a playbook, so that the company afterwards could dig into things, work more in it, or they can use it to see, okay, whether they can use the spin-in to have, if they have an idea, they can challenge the idea and say, should we work with it or should we just leave it and work with something else? The following page is about 4 or 5 cases I have had to show the different kind of challenge that we are giving and the level of it as well. Please change. The first case is about MP Denmark, the company working with making stockings for kids and women's stockings as well. The challenge was that they have a lot of short cut-ends from production. So they're thinking, okay, is it possible not to produce waste? Is it possible to get it in a loop so that we can use it again? The team, next picture, please. The team worked with the cut-ends and said, okay, what to do with it. It was a very, you can say, hands-on project because they were working with the material. So they were collecting it, sorting it out in different colors and say, okay, is it possible to knit it again? And you can say the short ends are very difficult to work in because the idea, they call the project, they call waste socks because it is like you can use the waste and then you have the stockings as well. But is it possible to have the short ends? And it's very difficult to have the short end to make a new thread, you can say, to use it for making stockings. So at the moment, so they came up with a concept. They say you can use the ends and you get a melange, a color melange. You can say you don't get the one solid color. So you get, this was the idea that they could use the yarn to make stocks, or they can just use it for stripes and whatever they wanted. That was the concept they left to the company. And the next slide. So you can see it was a concept, but we are not able to use it at the moment, but the concept gave the company the idea that working with the dead stock yarn they were having. So there is a lot of yarns that are left over. So they say, okay, we can just combine the different kind of threads we have from dead stock. And in this way, so you can say the spin-in gave the company the idea to say, okay, how can we use the idea, but in another way? Next slide, please. Costa Copenhagen is a fashion brand. That is another case. They were working with fashion for women, and they would like to work with the CO2 emission. So they would like to see, okay, is it possible for us to control the CO2 emission when we design the clothes? And that was very interesting because, okay, is it possible to have like a model where you can put in the 3 categories they made? they said we have the material, we have the garment production, and we have the transportation. So if we know the numbers of the 3 areas, is it possible to change it? And then we could see if we change the material from cotton and we use the viscose instead of it, was it possible to get a lower CO2 emission? Please change. The team was very clever, working with a lot of numbers, because that is what you need when you're working with the CO2 emission. You have to have a lot of numbers, you have a lot of information, you have to have that. And this model was only used for internal in the company. So it's not anything you can use outside or use it in your business plan, but you can use it inside on how can we design. When we're designing, we can use the knowledge we're having when we're designing new clothes and we're designing a new collection. Next slide, please. And they made it possible to use this one, and the company is using it. And what we can do is, and that is also what we know, Zalando is having the demand that the companies have to have a certain kind of sustainable level if they're going to sell it on Zalando. So when now you can see you have already looked into what area are we having, and now it's able to use like a certified company like Higgs Index, for instance, to transform the numbers they have been worked with. The next slide, please. So this is Chopin. They're making gymnastic clothes. And you can say all the projects are very hands-on. The company is defining what the challenges are. And this company is quite a new into the sustainability transformation. So they're just saying, okay, they have about 800 different kind of materials. And they're saying it's just too much for us. So you also have to look into it, say, okay, we take a small step. The small step is also always valuable, because then you're going to, you are on the journey, and that is very important. So they would like the team to look into what can we do, because with cheerleaders are having a uniform and they're just using it for 1 year. So what's afterwards? So they have a lot of waste. They're making suits for a lot of teams in gymnastics, but they're not using it afterwards. Please change. So the company looked into the linear value chain that the company were having and saying, okay, in what step can we go in and make a loop? So they were going into the user and saying, okay, in what way can we have, when they have been used the suit, how is it possible to make it in a loop so that we can use it again and it's not going to have an end life? So what they made was kind of resell. That was possible. They could also get into it, make it, if there was something torn apart, they could just mix it again. And the third one was they could make it to something completely different, but with a lower quality. Next slide, please. And what you can see here is suits that are made from the one, but they're hacked, you can say. And you have like the same impression of it, or the aesthetics are maybe like the first one, but now it's just different. But you have the same, you can say you have the same lines, you have the same colors, you have the same logos. So it is possible. But again, as Dita was saying as well, we have to change the view on the fabric and the clothes we're wearing now. Next slide, please. Yes. And then I would like to talk about, because due to, of course, we have material when we're working with the sustainability, we also have the branding, what is around the product, you can say. So Tools are making a small company of women who are making tools for women as well. Hand tools to use when you're doing a craft work. Next slide, please. They're using upcycling material, so the idea is very good. They would like to have, okay, how can we transform this into a community? How can we do the branding? How can we tell the story? So that was the challenge for the team. How is it possible to make this very good idea into a community where we collect our customers? Next slide, please. So they came up with with the online forum where you can use it and it is free. And then you also could have the payment wall where you can have a subscription, and where you get, if you go deeper into if you're doing DIY projects, you can use that. Next slide, please. The last case I have is from Wheelers, and is about blockchain. Blockchain is also a part of the sustainability chains, due to that we have to have documentation, and we have, of course, it's related to the greenwashing. Is it possible to document the journey we are having, and that in fact we are using a sustainable material? Wheelers are making furniture out of sea waste. Next slide, please. And what they would like was to have a goal where you can have where you can go through the value chain and see that in fact it is coming from the sea, and it is like that. And the blockchain work will always be with the chair, so it never changes. You can always go back and see that is right. That is made from sustainable material. Next slide, please. So they made kind of a metro system where you can, so the team will make the metro system going through the value chain and say, okay, where can we get the points where we have to have the documentation where the customer would like that to be as well. Next slide, please. I'll just make a summary. That was the 5 cases. Sorry, it was very quick and dirty, you can almost say, but I hope that the different kind of cases gave you an idea on the different angles you can have into sustainability. You can have it like a big view, or you can have a very small view on it, and you can go into say, okay, we would like to hold the whole product live, or you can just say we would like a part of it and go deeper into that. Next slide, please. I would say thank you very much, and hope that could give you some inspiration, and I hope that we all can spin in the future. Thank you so much. Hi, Gideon, are you there?
也可以去增加客人的这个粘着度了哈。那首先呢，下一页，好，下一页。好，那我们谈到这个，今天因为这个主题是跟做这个西号。我觉得现在全世界最大的环境的应该是气候变迁是第一大。 但是呢，第二大的这个环境议题，我觉得应该就是所谓我们的海洋污染，因为海是地球呢有70%是海洋。那你现在可以看到我们很多这个。到了2050年这个可能的塑胶跟鱼这些我们吃到的这些来的这个打捞起来的这个渔获，可能有一半是垃圾所以这个是非常严重的那右边的话，我们就是对应到这一次的主题是我们的联合国永续目标第14项第14项保护海洋那底下的话是有一个现在那个日本的话，它也有一个就是在2019在 Osaka 的一个会议里面，他们也定了一个 2050 Zero Marine Waste 这样的一个目标所以这个是一些国际性的一些背景。下一页。好，那我们也简单的介绍一下啦就是以塑胶这个东西对我们来讲它是非常的耐用。如果你把一个简单的 ABS 丢到这个海里面去，它可以在海里活400多年，不会裂解。所以这是一个如果不好好的去对待这些废弃物的话，其实它会造成很长期的一个污染那一年的话，大概全球我们大概会有生产3亿吨的塑胶量。那里面呢不小心或故意被丢到这个海里面去的，大概估计是大概有1200万吨1200万吨的塑料，每年这样子丢不是一年而已，是每年。那飘到台湾，大概我们有统计，大概是1万吨左右。我们台湾的周边我们的海岸线是有大概2000公里，含离岛2000公里的海岸线，那每年大概就会收集大概1万吨的塑胶垃圾那这些塑胶垃圾有可能慢慢会变成这个塑胶微粒根据统计呢，我们大概目前我不知道，可能现在大家肚子里面都有塑胶微粒一个礼拜大概会吃下2张这个信用卡的一个塑胶量所以这个其实还蛮严重的蛮严重的。下一个。好，那我们这次的专案其实就是针对这个我们的这个联合国的第14项永续发展目标保护海洋。那我们的这个名称叫做 Sea Hope， 就是英文的话也是说看见那个海洋的希望来下一个。那我们的这个专案呢有3个面向第一个，我们开始的时候是号召我们的这个同仁一起去海边看看我们海边的这个污染的情形，那确实是非常的这个惊悚那从2018年开始到今年我们大概已经号召我们同仁已经有办了40几场的这个净滩活动。那去年开始呢，我们也邀请我们的这个客户像技嘉、ACIC 一起来参与。那目前来讲的话，我们已经有超过6000个人次的这个净滩活动，那减了大概20几吨的垃圾了那左下角的话，就是说我们在这个净滩的过程里面，其实发现这个塑胶其实是可以被回收的尤其是台湾周边比较严重的这个养殖业用的这个保丽龙它其实是可以被回收，所以我们就启动了这个所谓的海废循环经济的这样的案子。那右边的话是，其实我们光宝也有做了很多路灯我们在台湾的市占率是有大概1/3左右的路灯的一个市占率。那我们也利用这个路灯在这个兰屿帮助我们的这个海大的这个陈老师在那边做海龟的研究。现在就是那个路灯的那个蓝光会影响到这个海龟母龟的上岸所以我们现在在想办法再把它换成这个没有蓝光的这个路灯，去帮助这个海龟不要去影响到它这个生态所以这个是我们大概3个保护海洋，利用我们自己核心本业的一个案子。下一页。好，那台湾来讲的话，就是这个 1万吨下来哦，大概就是我们的那个保利龙有200吨，然后渔网有300吨，然后保特瓶150吨，然后其他的杂塑胶大概5、6千吨这样。好，下一页。那你各位看到这个就是在澎湖哦，他们收集了满满的这个保利龙。那这个保利龙大部分都是养殖业哦，养殖业飘过来的。对岸应该有大概60%哈，这里面。下一页。好，那保利龙的问题就是它很蓬松哦，它只有5% 是材料，那95%是空气啊，95%。所以为了解决这个运输啊，怎么样回收运输的问题，然后还有它的这个表面其实很脏啊这样的问题啊，我们跟这个在中立的一家社会企业合作哦，他们用一个比较特殊的一个溶剂，可以把它处理掉，所以我们就从2018年就开始跟他们合作。那也成功的开发出我们的这个回收原料，我们做成我们的键盘滑鼠，哦，现在在跟客户在 engage， 都在试我们的这个材料的特性。来下一个，好，那这个整个我们的回收过程哈，我想这个下一页我们直接看影片好了，因为时间的关系。好，麻烦播一下影片。声音好像没有出来。好，没有关系，我一面解释好了啦哈。就是我们大概在台湾啦哈，保利龙的使用大概有20吨哈，20吨，但是海漂的话就是大概200吨左右，200吨左右。那这些就是在现场看到这个，因为它轻，所以很容易被风吹到岸上来。那这个是在那个澎湖哦，可以看到这个
保利龙回收量只有2成，保利龙浮具造成海岸环境污染。
各位如果有机会到海边去的话，其实很容易看到这个保利龙。哦，那我们首先是跟澎湖合作，我们把这个保利龙直接就丢到这个溶剂里去，哦，就好像那个棉花糖一样，你把那个棉花糖丢到那个水里面去，然后变成糖水。那这个糖水的话，你再把它煮，用加热的方式，你可以把水蒸发嘛，留下糖。那这个水在这边就是溶剂，啊，那个溶剂又可以回收，所以我们用这样的方式去做一个循环的处理，可以解决掉这个运费的问题。因为如果我们直接在把这个机制变成一个 mobile 的这个 container， 把它放到澎湖跟金门，已经在2020年的时候就已经到这个昂塞去，这个叫做昂塞的这个volume reduction 的一个机制，它在现场就可以把它去化，然后我们再把那个溶剂运到台湾来，就像我刚刚讲那个煮糖水一样，再把它的溶剂回收回去，然后再送到现场去继续做，所以这样子是一个很好的一个可以解决运输的一个很好的一个循环的机制。那目前来讲，运作了1年多，也都效果也都很好。那金门跟澎湖我们已经帮它去化，从去年到今年已经去化了大概100多吨，100多吨的这个保利龙的这个污染。下一页。好，这个就是我刚刚讲的那个我们的这个container 哈。那今年的话，我们会在马祖还有台南也开始设置这个现场所谓减农的一个机制哈。那未来的话，我们也希望说能够把这样的一个所谓的网络系统，再往更多的离岛去发展，然后帮助离岛解决这个垃圾很难清运的问题。下一页。好，那除了保利龙以外呢，我们现在也积极的在开发这个渔网，渔网就是大部分是尼龙，尼龙的一个材料。我刚才我们那个黑人那个老师他也有分享，就是尼龙把它做成椅子，尼龙是一个很耐用的材料，然后我们这个渔网上面也有很多这个要让这个渔网浮起来的浮球，那个浮球是 ABS 也是可以回收来使用的。那渔网的部分的话，我们还特别规划，就是我们会合作这个潜水员，真正的到这个海底去打捞，因为那个真的覆盖在海底的这个渔网， 我们讲所谓的幽灵渔网啊，那个才是真的对环境破坏最严重的哦，所以我们也会针对那个去处理。下一个，好，那我们做了这些东西来回应现在的这个减碳的这个时代哈，其实大概啦哈，我们的材料跟这个原生的这个所谓的 High PS 这种材料来讲的话，我们大概可以1公斤可以减大概3.2公斤的一个碳排哈。那如果把它放在我们的产品的上下盖，就是这个键盘的上下盖的话，大概可以减到1公斤可以减到1.28公斤的一个碳排放哈。所以这个也是一个我们未来在对应怎么样回应这个减碳的这一个路径公司的减碳路径、产品的减碳路径上面一个很好的一个材料。下一个，好，那我的简报就到这边，谢谢大家。
Okay, so would you like to show us your wonderful ideas and your beautiful products? Have no
Sound is really weird. Can you hear me now? Helene can hear me. Okay, great, I'll try again. I couldn't hear you before either, so I'm not completely sure if you made an introduction, but I am Rosa Bendixen, founder of Wild Studio, that I'd love to tell you about. Next slide, please. Okay, it works. Okay. No, this is the wrong slide. Can I share the other one with you? Is that okay? You have taken and you used an old slide. Is it okay I choose another one? Great. Okay, great. You're going to see it all here from the beginning, apparently. Very sorry about that. This is Wild Studio. So what we do is here. The sound is really weird. Yeah. We do products made of recycled plastic waste, of different kinds of recycled plastic that we've worked with. So shortly, our starting point, or my starting point, was to try to work with this as a designer, so more as an inspiration and a concept, and in a positive way try to change this climate fear that we work from in this business. So the starting point is this 50% of the world's surface that hasn't been touched by humans. So when we talk about resources, when you're like me, work with as a designer, as an architect, it's really material. So so the concept is how to look at the material that we have already touched somehow as humans. And I decided to work with plastic because it's the material that people like the less, it seems. It's the symbol of throwaway culture, is the symbol of waste and destruction of our oceans, etc. So I thought if we can change our perception of this material, we can change the way we look at resources, and that is a way of giving a push to this process from a designer's point of view. So shortly, what we do is we design and develop furniture, and we sell our products. We offer very relatable example of circular production with what we do. I'll show you later. And we don't actually manufacture ourselves. We work together with with Danish manufacturers to create these examples. And we've been approached lately by municipalities and companies to create partnerships between the public and private spheres in examples of circular production. So I'm just going to say this to our main example here, the Moon collection. So it's inspired by the moon because the moon keeps the earth in balance, and an example of how we work with this as a concept. And what we do with this is that we don't expect the material to act in the same way when we already used it. So we're looking at a material that already has had a life, so it has changed, and therefore we can't expect it to be able to do the same or to act the same, and that's our how we work with it. This, can you hear me? Yeah. The collection is made of 100% recycled plastic, so we don't work with composites of any kind. We don't add extra material. And what happens when you work with plastic in this way instead of with virgin plastic is that each piece is unique. So this is partly how we add value to the product, is by this process, because products that are unique have normally greater value. When our customers choose our products, they don't really choose between an upcycled product and a new product that are the same, but just the upcycle is a bit more expensive. In this case, what they choose is the whole story about recycle. So it's hard to really compare with similar products. This example is made of household waste from Denmark. It's called Wild Moon Stool. And as you can see, all the colors from toothbrushes and shampoo bottles, etc., are visible here. This is an we do is containers from the recycling lots where they collect metals, and when they're used, we turn them into stools. These are boxes from the fishing industry. So as you can see, the color is always visible. The former life is always visible in our design. This is my favorite example because this was a pile of shredded plastic pieces that couldn't be sold, so it was going to get burned because there were still labels on. And I think if you're an engineer and you work with plastic, you would say that this cannot be used, this isn't interesting. But as an architect or a designer, this means you can actually tell even more of a story with it because there are little pieces of something here that you can maybe read, or it seems like secret messages. So this is April Moonstool. So summing up is that the fact that the former life, so the upcycle process, is visible and relatable, creates a positive incitement for people to buy the product as well as to recycle again, because they can see that it doesn't just end up on a beach somewhere, it's not burned, it actually becomes something that they can use in their daily life and love, like. So just I want to say shortly about the partnership and closed loops that we work with. It's in different examples. 8 out of 10 takes wishes to live more environmentally sustainable. And companies in Denmark pay to get rid of plastic waste, and the regulation is getting tighter for how we produce or what municipalities, for instance, or cities buy. And the demand in general is increasing. So everyone is looking for solutions, and we have started working together with different cities and companies, and this is an example called Reflow, where we have been part of it's an EU project about recycling plastic waste, household waste. And our way into it was to say that if people can see it, so it's like a see it, show it, don't tell it. If you can see that it ends up somewhere interesting, beautiful, it will be easier to do it in your everyday life. So we have, these are prototypes of big planters that are going to be placed in Vejle City as an example of how Vejle City works with their plastic waste or care about their plastic waste. Yeah, speaks for itself. Thank you.
好，下一思考是不是有干净的食物来帮助这个世界或这个社会。下一页。好，那接下来当然人类的生存需要干净的空气，就像我们遇到 COVID-19 一样，我们现在都要戴口罩。好，下一页。所以从设计的逻辑来看，我们会很重视在视觉哦，希望视觉能够影响每个受众，他会愿意去购买我们的产品。下一页。哦，那包含五感六觉里面的听觉，我们也会尽可能去考虑。好，下一页。好，刚才跳过了，还有一个是能源。哦，那这些综合起来，我们当然希望还有健康的部分去考虑进来。下一页。哎，它跳掉，下一页。好，那当然安全的生活对整个设计的角度来讲也非常重要。好，下一页。好，所以我们希望所有设计的产品，不管循环设计或任何的设计领域，我们都希望产生足够的意义来帮助这个世界和这个社会。下一页。哦，那所以希望能够达成这些使命哦，所以我们用一个小的设计公司，然后来去做业界相关影响，去影响我们的客户，然后还有自己做一些想做的事情。 下一页。所以可以看到 G 侠的 logo 就是都有一个 X。来下一页。那直接进入到案例的部分。那因为刚才考虑到人类健康这些相关的东西，所以我们找到了一个可能可以做一个好的循环设计的事情，就是把废弃的建筑物呢作为一个循环的材料。下一页。那透过呢拆除老旧的建筑物，我们可以把这些建筑垃圾呢，不要只是把它抛弃，我们利用到回收厂，然后整个做一些分类处理，然后再生骨材之后再转换成型。好，那这个时候它就可以变成一个新的产品，然后能够拆除再利用。下一页。那这些拆除的垃圾呢，它有98%甚至99%可以直接利用。好，那对这个整个业界来讲，我觉得是一个还不错的突破。下一页。好，所以它是零污染跟几乎是零废料的。下一页。好，那也非常容易拆装，因为我们把它模组化了。好，那下一页。所以这个就是我们在重组之后的一个 recycle 产品，就是乐高墙。那它有一个，它因为它已经模组化，所以有特殊的结构。下一页。好，所以它就可以透过这些结构的设计跟整合，就会有骨架，然后中通管道的设计，方便使用跟组装，就变成是我们的隔间墙。下一页。好，那它有一些效果，它隔音也相当不错，我们也做过相关的测试。下一页。好，那它在高效的蓄能部分，其实表现也比平常的这些隔间墙来得好。下一页。好，那再加上因为它是用组合拼接的方式，所以它以一般的房子的隔间这些做法来讲更好，所以它是可以节省到我们的使用空间，也就是可以节省约0.5平的空间。下一页。好，那当然它的材料因为是已经用废材料再重新整合，所以都比不管是灌浆或红砖或RC墙来得更轻。下一页。好，所以我们可以看一下实际做的场域。OK， 这个是在去年的新竹设计展，我们去在服务中心盖起来的房子。那其实它本来是隔间墙，但我们尝试让它做成是一个屋顶的状况，然后来去试试看这个材料的使用用途。下一页。好，所以你可以看到实际盖起来大概的比例跟尺寸。下一页。好，那这它的内饰。好，下一页。好，那这个是夜间的状况。那这一个当然新竹设计展已经结束，所以我们已经拆掉。那目前这一个房子，它是继续把它搬移到这个台南的安平那边。所以它是继续在使用。所以我们在讲 recycle 部分指的是这一块，就是说一个废材它可以重复再利用。那当你把它做一个好的模组化。好，下一页。好，另外一个是我们很努力尝试的另外一个题目叫 Archivable。那它其实是一个循环的家电。那它的这个循环的点是在水资源的应用。好，那我们都知道，其实家里面都有除湿机，是可以把湿气把它做干燥的。那我们利用这一个设备呢，就是利用空气的湿气，最后让它变饮用水。好，那也可以给这个环境一个比较干净的空气。下一页。好，所以一开始的起心动念是这样，就是我们都知道水资源其实是在全球是匮乏的。好，那其实台湾因为水资源其实是很容易取得，所以大家比较没感觉。下一页。好，事实上从统计来看，全世界有60%的地方供水是不够的，80%的人甚至没有洁净的水。那50%的人他用水是不卫生的。下一页。好，那城市的部分一些老旧管线，其实它的水其实是危险的。好，下一页。OK， 所以就如同我刚才说的，我们还有一个看不到的天然资源。它不是肉眼看得到，它就是空气里面的湿气。下一页。就是天空中的巨大湖泊。OK， 下一页。好，所以大概从统计来看，大气的含水量差不多是10万个日月潭的量，所以它其实是足够我们拿来做应用的。下一页。好，所以我们在这一个产品上面，其实它并不是一个新技术，它就是做一个整合。所以通过空气 空气滤芯进来，然后做一个水凝的这个流程，就是像一般除湿机的过程。那最后我们用滤芯、滤网这些，甚至把水煮沸加上 UVC 等等这些杀菌的部分，然后达到一个可以饮用水。那它的好处就会变成是在各种不同的场域，包含今天的场域，你不需要再拉水线，不需要再做工程。下一页。好，那我们为了要让客户愿意使用，或者是依照亚洲人的习性，所以我们以设计公司的立场把它做得好看一点。好，下一页。好，那所以为了要让客户有这个感觉，也愿意去使用这样的产品，所以我们做了一个仪式感。各位可以看到这个2个产品里面，白色的这个它有一个推门，所以它在使用的时候，它就可以按一下，它就直接推门进去。下一页。好，那因此我们得到今年度很多的奖项，包含 IF， 下一页，好，包含这个 Computex 的奖项，以及下一页，好，以及经典设计奖。好，那最后让我们去看一下它的影片，谢谢。跑出来了，跑不动。OK， 没有关系。那今天的这个介绍到这边，谢谢大家。
So, I'm so sorry for making 2 mistakes in my presentation to you. As you can see, the panelists are being invited to the stage. Please, Peter. Please, Mark. Please, Joshua. And we have Helene online here. Hello, Helene. And I hope that we get the other panelists online. So, oh, we're really perched high up here. Yeah? I was quite far away as well, but we have to make space. We have to make space here. So we have 30 minutes to create some dialogue between our inspiring speakers and to create a short bridge between Denmark and Taiwan's sustainability efforts. Now, I've been told that there could be a technical problem in about 15 minutes because the concert, which is being set up in the courtyard, sends out some radio waves which interfere with our system here. And that's why we had some technical problems. So depending on how lucky we are and whether the radio waves decide to come this way or not, we will have either 15 minutes or 30 minutes. Now, it was so fascinating to hear all your presentations. And I learned, personally, I learned a lot from you all. Thank you very much. Now, what is so special about a forum like that is so many different initiatives, so many different ideas, many different approaches. So we also have 2 different cultures and 2 different ways of approaching situations and challenges. So I would like to ask you, please, to share with us what you found most interesting, most intriguing about each other's stories. Because apart from the actual information we got, we can actually hear a social narrative, a cultural narrative, a story of how we see the future and how we see what we're doing and how we relate to the world. So could you please share with us, each one of you, one by one, what you found most interesting, most intriguing with each other's presentations. And it doesn't have to be between Denmark and Taiwan, it can be between everyone. Let's ask Helene to start. We have Helene on the screen.
Can it turn out so? Here I am. Yes, thank you so much. Some of the speeches has been in has not been in English, but I could let you read the slides. And I was, yeah, and what I think that is very good in this, and of course we're talking a lot about, we have the same approach to things, and we all know that we have to have the sustainability view on the coming production and how we are living. And I think we have to have a more hands-on, you can say, how do we to make the change, because we have a lot of ideas, but how can we transform them into practice, to have the hands-on and has a trackway or playbook on how to do things. I think that is very important as well. And of course, it can get inspiration from each other when we're telling the story. But I think that is mainly what we are going to do, I think. And it is very good also to hear Ditte Lysgaard's, how she was telling about how they came from the upcycling of the concrete and the windows to make finished buildings from it. And I think that is some of the stories that we have to have much more on, so that we can relate to it and say, okay, how can we use that in our business? Because it is different how the business is working and what we're working on as well. So I think that is what we have to look into as well.
Thank you very much, Helene. So how about you, Peter? Have you got any things that really excited you?
Yeah. 我想哈，就是从不管是丹麦，或者是几十万公里远的台湾哦，其实我们现在都在想同样一件事情了啦哈，就是说，从设计师的角度跟我们制造的角度，我们大家的思考模式已经开始渐渐的在趋于一致哈，就是怎么样减少浪费，怎么样减少浪费，这是一个非常重要的议题哈。那从这个怎么样像我们有分享这个水泥哈，这个因为这个水泥的量体很大，那怎么样把它回收利用哈？我觉得这个方向的 idea 非常好，因为水泥的制造也是高污染，水泥在制造的时候它也会有产生很多的这个碳排放，所以我们如果能够从设计师的一个思考角度出发。然后利用科技、利用技术去把它回收，我觉得这是一个很好的事情哈。那接下来呢，其实我自己本身也是学工业设计背景出发。那以前哈，我们在做这个工业设计的这个过程里面哈，我们会觉得这个其实像尤其塑胶这种材料，它是很好被塑形，那也非常便宜。所以我们有发明了很多这个所谓的一次性的这个塑胶产品。那因为它太便宜，没有什么法规的管制，所以造成了大家不去珍惜这样的一个资源，乱丢乱丢，然后造成这么大的一个环境的污染。所以呢，其实我们也开始就去年开始，我这边也跟我们很多设计科系的同学跟老师合作，就是以前我们在做工业设计的时候，有一门课叫做造型设计。那这个造型设计呢，我们会用很多的这个保丽龙啊，甚至这些 PU 的材料去做出一个形状出来，然后在课堂上要去教这个功课。那你发现你做完这一堂课以后，我这些造型设计这么大的东西都全部变成垃圾，丢到垃圾场去。所以我们现在在跟学校合作，要反思就是我们要教设计师学设计的同学怎么样去利用这些废弃物？回过头来，其实它是一个你可以被你使用的资源之一。就像那个我们刚才那个 Rose 他们也有很多的这个塑胶回收，那个我们非常 exciting。如果我们以后的设计教育可以去从这个所谓循环再利用的角度，不要去再太多的这个原生材料的使用的时候，我觉得我们的世界会变得 more better more better world because of the design change。
Thank you very much. Okay, and so do we have anybody else online from Denmark?
Okay, so can you hear me? This is interpreter speaking. Helene, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is interpreter speaking, so I have to translate it a little bit for you.
Okay, thank you.
Because you couldn't hear anything, right? Or you
Yeah.
just heard Chinese?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically the main idea is in the future for design education, we should focus a little bit more on circular economy and circular design instead of using raw materials. That way we will be able to build our world better in the future.
Okay, so Mark, would you like to share with us what you found exciting, interesting, intriguing in the presentations that we've had this afternoon?
听完了这个丹麦跟台湾这边的这个循环设计的这些部分啊，我个人是觉得，从大的制造业也好，或者是大家重视这个循环设计这2年，我觉得台湾的环保意识本来就一直提升。那透过这次跟丹麦的交流，我们也发觉北欧的设计师他也有非常独特的想法。那但是大家共同的议题就是保护这个环境跟地球。那我也觉得是蛮有意思的，因为是不同的国家文化，大家想的产品线是不太一样的，那思考方向也可能不太相同，但是最终大家都希望这个地球能够永续发展。谢谢。
I heard the cases from Denmark and also Taiwan. I think all the presentations are very interesting. And in Taiwan, I can see that our environmental protection awareness has been rising year after year. And wherever we are, we actually have the same goal, which is to protect our planet. So we come from different countries, we produce different products, and we have different mindset. But I have to say that we have the same goal, we share the same vision.
Thank you very much.
其实，在我们过去的研究过程中，其实北欧它的对环保议题的关注其实是非常重视的，而且做了非常多的法令，然后民众的配合度也很好，所以当地的一些回收率或是回收成效也是非常高的。那台湾当然在回收状况下也是蛮重视这个主题，所以我们有一样的这个基础。那现在就是说各个产业开始打算导入循环这件事情。那今天在座所分享，不管是丹麦或者是台湾，其实这些好的案例，我觉得应该它可以被变成一个指引或者是设计的这个脉络，都可以把它整理起来。因为其实我们需要更多设计师或者是企业一起来参与，因为环境议题实在是非常大的议题，也不可能是单一的单位或者单一的企业就可以解决的。我们需要更多人一起参与。那如果每个产业或者是每个设计师在我们过去的执行的经验，我们可以把这些经验整理起来，让我们的下一代，不管是设计师跟企业都可以使用。它有一个循环设计的原则，或者循环设计的一个发想的流程。那未来我相信所有的产品或者企业都会更愿意做这件事情，因为他至少知道他要怎么去开始，然后怎么去进行下一步。
Thank you.
From past studies, we can see that in Scandinavian countries, the environmental protection practices are actually very admired around the world. There are very rigorous laws, and people are also very compliant. So in Scandinavian countries, we see the recycling rate is very high. Now in Taiwan, we also have very high recycling rate. So I can say that both Taiwan and Denmark, we are standing on the same level of foundation. Now, a lot of industries want to introduce the concept of circularity into their operations. And today we saw that in Denmark and Taiwan, we both have very good case studies. I believe that we should share these positive cases so that more designers and more companies will want to join us, because we cannot go alone. We cannot solve the challenges that we face alone. If companies and designers can share our experience, perhaps we can also compile some kind of guidelines to help future companies and designers as they conceptualize all these different innovations, so that they know where to start.
Thank you. Okay, so where do you think we have common interests, and how could we build a bridge? In 1998, shortly after I came to Taiwan first time, I brokered an official agreement between the then, it was called the Taiwan Design Center in those days, and the Association of Danish Designers. It was a framework for exchange of design services between our countries, and it was signed at a traditional ceremony by the mayor in the city hall in Copenhagen. Maybe today is an opportunity to begin a new cooperation about sustainability instead of just design. What do you think?
I think that would be a very good idea.
Can you, while we're waiting for the translation, could you, Helene, do you have any experience about working internationally? A lot of the initiatives that we are witness to are very local and very internal within a country. Do you have any experience of how we can reach across borders?
But I think it is possible to transform it into, it doesn't matter what country you are in. So I think you can just, the concept or how you're doing things, you can just transform it into another country. And I can see, as well as we all have seen, that it is, we have the same goal and we are working like we are using the same words. We are looking in the circular life, circular value chain on the same way. So I think it's possible to dig in and share or work together in teams on how we can supply.
Okay, so often we have two ways. We can make teams or we can make communities. Obviously, there are a lot of professional communities. How to choose, how to make an interdisciplinary team within a community, that will be a very key step forward. So how about you, Jiashang, Mr. Wang? Would you, because you brought this up, so I was wondering if you have any ideas.
对不起，我的想法是，其实台湾的有一个很强的部分，就是我们的制造技术跟我们的供应链传接能力是很强的。那当然，在北欧跟台湾目前的部分，在设计的部分也，当然在北欧部分设计一直都是北欧的这个主要产业，或者也是他们常驻关注的一个领域。那台湾的设计界其实也慢慢在崛起。那我们希望这个平台的部分，在设计的部分，我们还是希望有企业或者是制造业一起参与，因为有些主题当然是在地就可以处理的议题，例如说我们的建筑是在地新建的，我们的衣服或者时尚产业可能在地有供应商，但是一些大型的需要跨国供应链的，例如电子产品，那可能就是台湾比较专精而且比较擅长的产业。那这些产业因为是全球供应链，所以有可能每一个国家都可以去协助改变这一个供应链。那设计当然也是可以，因为我觉得设计是一个工具，它可能在不同产业都可以使用设计的工具。那我们在循环或者永续的部分，我们也可以把设计当作是一个很好的工具，用设计去改变整个产业的一个商业模式，以及呢这产品所提供民众的服务。所以我认为，如果在平台部分可以结合双方的这个善用的 强项跟资源，然后共同去沟通，让整个供应链是有办法在丹麦跟台湾部分的设计师的加入，以及台湾的制造业的协助，去改变我们整个环境的议题。
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Wang. So,
right, I think Taiwan's strength is in our manufacturing prowess, whereas Scandinavia is always known for its ingenious design. But I have to say that the Taiwanese design industry is also emerging, it's also arising and becoming better and better. And with the global supply chain that have to be tackled with the participation of different countries. For example, the electronics industry is such a global supply chain, and this is also where Taiwan is very good at. And I think for problems with the global supply chain, all countries can do their part. And design can also play a very important role here, because design is a tool that we can use. We can use design to as a tool to promote circularity and also sustainability. And we can also design new business models to tackle our problems. So I think what we can do is that we have to combine the strengths of different countries. For example, we can use Taiwan's strength in manufacturing and also use Denmark's strength in design.
That's a very nice insight. And what I would like to step to next is that Peter was already been invited to COP26 to make a presentation. And you can see from the containers of the C project that they are already being placed around the world. Now, what we haven't really addressed today, but what you addressed just now, is that circularity and sustainability is not just a product. It's a whole complex system. And systems thinking in the whole system, where the consumer is only one step in this system, and where the product is only one step in this system, is going to be very critical. So could you please give us some input, Peter, about your international experience of how to create, you created a product, but its part is addresses the problem of a whole system at a time.
我想就是如果谈刚才那个合作的议题我觉得现在像我们那个设计研究院我们就可以扮演一个很重要的角色来串联台湾跟台湾的制造力，就像刚刚嘉祥提到的，台湾的制造生产的能力，然后再加上这个我们丹麦这边的一个设计的能量那透过丹麦的办事处还有这个设计研究，我觉得应该是可以架构一个很好的平台。那另外一个就是非正式的话，其实现在这个所谓的video conference 这个机制也大家也非常的这个，因为 COVID-19 的关系也非常的熟悉了啦所以也可以，我觉得会后我们也可以再透过一些这个线上的机制再跟几位今天与会的这个专家来做一些请教或后续的合作了。那至于谈到这个所谓的系统性的解决其实我们这一次的这个海洋废弃的这个回收专案，其实我们要建立的也是刚刚像那个陆威这个教授讲的，就是说我们希望能够在一个区域性的地方先建构一套可行的模式。那我们现在认为这个模式是非常的可行，因为尤其是像我们这种岛屿型的国家，我们非常需要这种solution，甚至我们听到帛琉也非常愿意用这样的一个系统去解决运输的问题。所以包括丹麦这边有很多的这个设计，它可以把这些废弃物设计得很漂亮，让大家愿意去使用。那我们这边能够 create 一些系统，那这些系统可以 duplicate 到丹麦。我相信丹麦也很多岛屿，丹麦这个北欧国家也很多岛屿，所以他们也可以用这样的系统两边来合作。我觉得这个是一个很好的一个未来发展的一个契机啊。
Okay, so
right, I want to go back to the issue of cooperation. Here, I believe that TDRI can play a key role. As my fellow panelists also mentioned, Taiwan is very strong in manufacturing, whereas Denmark is very strong in design. So I think perhaps the Trade Council of Denmark and TDRI can work together so that we can create a cooperation mechanism. But informally, now that we can also talk to each other via video conferencing, perhaps after this forum, we can also talk about how we can further cooperate with each other. And on the issue of systematic solution, I gave you the case study of Sea Hope, and this is basically a manifestation of a feasible regional model. Now, Taiwan is an island country, so we need to tackle this kind of transportation problem. And I know that another island nation, Palau, is also very interested in this model. And in Denmark, we heard from the speakers and we saw pictures of many beautiful products that were made from waste. So I think in Taiwan, we can provide systematic solution. And I know that Denmark is also a country with a lot of islands. So I guess on this issue, we can also cooperate with each other.
Thank you very much, everybody. The concert has just started. I encourage everybody to go down and listen to the wonderful music and enjoy the event, which is about creating content for the internet. So thank you very much, Peter. Thank you, Mr. Wang. And thank you very much, Mark. Thank you, Helene. And thank you to Diede and Rosa from Denmark, who are unfortunately not with us right now. Thank you very much for organizing this very interesting forum, Mr. Chang and Patrick, and thank you for coming to join our event today. I hope you learned something and that we can do more in the future together. Thank you very much.